My grandpa has been a lifelong supporter of the Minnesota Democratic Party. And about 10 years ago, after suffering through 65 Minnesota winters, he retired to Arizona. But his move to Arizona meant something much more than better weather in the winter. In Minnesota, a state that frequently votes Democratic in presidential elections, my grandpa felt that his vote was heard because his party frequently won the state's electoral votes. Unfortunately for his voting status, he moved to Arizona, which we all pretty much know will vote Republican in the presidential election every time. And because the party opposing his views wins the election every time, his vote is now worthless. How could this be? America's supposed to be a democracy, right? You know, where every voice is heard? The Electoral College is to blame, and it's time to take action to make sure that everyone's vote counts. In this discussion, we'll cover what the Electoral College is, what problems it has caused, and what can be done to restore democracy in our presidential election process. Although there aren't any graduates from the Electoral College this year, it's a very important system in electing our president. The Founding Fathers created the Electoral College to address the issues that national elections posed during their time period. The Electoral College is an indirect method for electing the president. That means that the citizens vote on which candidate they want to win, and the winner of their state's majority vote, or popular vote, wins all of their state's electoral votes. The number of electoral votes for each state is tied to population, in the same way that the House of Representatives are set up, or in the presidential primaries, the delegate total for each state. For example, if candidate A got more votes than candidate B in Virginia, they would receive all 13 of Virginia's electoral votes. The system was set up well for a time without mass media and vast amounts of instant information. But it has become outdated now that it has not become adjusted to the modern day world. We can push a few buttons on our cell phones and look up sports scores, research for science, and communicate with people around the world in seconds. Even 50 years ago, the technology that we have today would be absolutely mind-blowing. The Electoral College is outdated because it was created for a time period of horse and wagon for transport and town crier for local news. Modern day candidates ignore states that are dominated by one party and ones with few electoral votes and smaller populations, and instead they focus in on swing states, or ones that could vote either Republican or Democrat given the election cycle. They ignore Texas because everyone knows that the Republicans will win there almost every time. In 2012, Mitt Romney and Barack Obama made no public appearances in New York, California, Illinois, or Texas. That area contains 95 million people, or almost a third of the entire United States population. Why didn't the candidates go to those heavily populated states? Don't you want as much support as possible, wherever possible? Isn't it just common sense to win? But neither candidate went to those states because they're already pretty much guaranteed to vote for a certain party. The Electoral College causes candidates to campaign in swing states and essentially ignore the others. Also, the Electoral College causes the overwhelming majority of campaign money to be spent in swing states. In 2012, 99% of major TV ads and campaign rally spending went to only 10 states. The ad blitz targets the states that are highly contested so that the candidates can hopefully gain an edge. The Electoral College can also make votes worthless. My grandpa, who still votes for the Democrats despite being enormously outnumbered by the Republicans in Arizona, he has lost his say for who becomes our next president. Think about it. Because the Republicans voting there win the majority vote of Arizona and all of its electoral votes, there is no representation for the Democrats voting in Arizona in the Electoral College. Their vote now counts for nothing. How could this be? We call ourselves the champions of democracy, yet we have votes that count for nothing. That is unacceptable. Also, People vote more often when they feel like their vote counts for something. Voters cast their votes 8.8% more often in presidential elections in the swing states. Lastly, the Electoral College is not a democratic process. The electors who are sent to the Electoral College are not even required to vote for the winner of their state's popular vote. 538 people have the ability to decide who our next president will be, and they don't have to listen to the other hundreds of millions of people who cast their vote on who they want to be our next leader. 15 of our fine presidents have been elected by winning the electoral vote, but not the popular vote. And John Quincy Adams won with only 32% of the popular vote. So what can we do? This problem won't fix itself, and it's only going to get worse as technology advances. And we all know, my grandpa's had enough snow and cold for several lifetimes. You shouldn't have to move to a different state to make sure your voice counts in a presidential election. There is a workable solution to the Electoral College dilemma. It's called the National Popular Vote Interstate Compact, or NPVIC. The NPVIC is, as it says in its name, an interstate compact, or an agreement among the states that says that the candidate that wins the popular vote of all of the states in the compact combined claims all of their electoral votes. Because the compact currently has enough states so that it has 165 electoral votes, the winner of the popular vote of all of the states combined claims all 165 electoral votes. When enough states join the compact so that it has 270 votes, the bare minimum required to win electorally, the Electoral College will be essentially abolished, because the winner of the popular vote of all of the states in the NPVIC will also win electorally. This can all be done without a cumbersome and timely constitutional amendment or an act by the federal government. But this problem is not going to fix itself. By telling your state senators and state representatives about the NPVIC, its advantages, and why it must be enacted to preserve democracy in our presidential election process, you too can be part of the solution. My grandpa deserves to have his vote count, and so do you. Thank you very much, and now we'll have Phoebe Wiseman on current